and 10 numbers. I found it easier just to look at your phone, because every phone's the same.
Yeah.
Pick a block and concentrate on a block of numbers and letters. Are you alright, Bill?
I'm alright, yeah.
Do you want a bottle of water?
Some
Do
smoke.
you want a bottle of water?
No, yeah, actually.
Just in that.
Yeah, that helped me no end to learn all the alphabet. I don't know how you did it yet, did you just go through? Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? If it was easy, everyone would be doing it, no doubt about it, but it took me ages. But I was determined, having passed my foundation test, which I said last year, and I had to do a little practical with an up and down key. And Tom was just sat laughing at me, you know, I was thinking, I never want to see one of these keys again. But you know, I thought, that's it. But, then I got committed, and I thought, I'm going to try it. So I'm gonna, and that's how I learned it, and that's how it sank in my head on the learning stage. That's more for Bill and John. I mean, you might want to adapt that fashion. It's just something to concentrate on. Obviously, next you want to learn your call sign. That's probably one of the most important things to learn, isn't it? It's your call sign and other people's call sign, especially people who are running nets, the club call sign, and anyone you can remember really. And the best way to do it is just to write the call sign down on a bit of paper. Don't write dots and dashes though, because that's the hard way to learn. Because you become reliant on those dots and dashes being in your eye line. So if you're keen on learning, then just write whoever's call sign is, might be your call sign, if it's Bill's, you're in 2E0 like me, 2E0KJC, you've got a great suffix, WTG. One of the easiest things, because it's the same backwards as forwards, it's just a few dots and dashes in it, and it's, I wish I'd have thought of something like that instead of having the initials backwards. Couldn't get them forwards. Yeah, so that's the best way to do it. We're going to touch upon another couple of subjects tonight, maybe have a quick look at protocol again, and then have a quick look at timing. I don't want to bore you. Morse is a boring subject, and it's very hard to make it interesting. So we'll have a quick look at. This is all lining paper. It's sense using the pad up. See, they bought me a board and a pad, and they said don't use the pad. Bring your own bloody paper, they said. So I thought, right, let's bring it up. I'm right-handed, so let's work on this side. So we're going to have a look at CW protocol. I should have put some holes in it, shouldn't I? I might have to use your pad, mate.
Go ahead and get it used up. I don't mind.
I might have to splash out here and watch this, look at that.
I'll look at it.
Look at that, isn't that white?
Superb.
And it's perforated as well.
Oh yeah.
Good too. I bet now I've nicked that lining paper, the wife will say, where's that paper that was in the back room? She's bound to, isn't she?
Oh yeah.
She's bound to come. So, CW protocol. Okay, so we all know how, anyone who's interested in learning CW will know how to put the call sign in, or will know how to call CW. So let's just have a quick look. So, let's say we're calling someone, we're brave enough to get on the Morse key and call CQ. So we'll go CQ, 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 3 or 4 times. Anyone know why it's called CQ? Quiz of the week. Okay, it comes from Marconi. It was the ship's distress call, CQD.
Right.
Attention everybody, I'm in distress. It only lasted 2 years, between 1904 and 1906, and they dropped the CQD and it became SOS, of course.
Right.
But CQ remains as the basic call sign for nearly all the world, basically. We all use the same thing. So I'm calling out CQ. We're still doing protocol. So we might put CQ in 4 times, and then we put from. And we use DE because it's easier than spelling from. That's the only thing I can work it out why they've ever put DE in there. So it's me. 2E0KJC.
Sorry.
And I might say it twice. And then I'll say PSE, please keep. So we go through this rigmarole of doing CQ so many times, call sign twice, please keep. because to try and make it as clear as possible to help the other person to understand who it is who's calling and that he wants to have a conversation with us. Because on Morse, there's no emphasis on how we say things. If you say to me hello, it all sounds the same. It's not like, hey Keith, how you doing?
Yeah.
It's, hi Keith, how you doing? Because you're writing it down. And it's exactly the same. No matter who is saying it, it's exactly the same way. So protocol is double important because you want to make sure that that person can understand it, because you can't put any emphasis on what you're saying. You can only make dots and dars. So it's double important to make sure everything is straight as ever and as clear as you can make it. So we want to call out CQ, and if we get an answer, hopefully the person who answers us won't just put in their call sign, which you hear on competitions, you hear in everyday nets, they'll just shout the call sign out. But the proper way to do it, let's say Bill's answering me, would be he'll call my call sign 2E0KJC from, and he's a 2E0WTG. So that will be the proper way to call in to me. Just two things. A, it shows he knows what he's doing. And B, it gives me time. Let's say he's calling my call sign first. I can then pick up on his call sign. And if he's slightly off frequency, I've got a few seconds just to tune him in. And most radios have got a ZIN button, haven't you? A spot you can zero in without having to touch your dial. So that'll give me just that few seconds I need to tune his signal in properly. In case he's 10 hertz off in one direction, I'm 20 off in another, then I can just home in on him and get his signal down to a fine art. And it does make a difference, because a lot of people, if you just put your call sign in, they won't answer you. Probably half the people, especially on 80 metres, if you just put your call sign in, you won't get a reply. And even though there's thousands of people who have heard you call out, they won't answer you. They just think, is he calling me? Is he calling the person on the adjacent frequency? Is he calling somebody I can't hear? You know, they don't know.
Yeah.
They don't know that because they just hear somebody else's call sign. Yeah. So it's doubly important to get the protocol right from the start. I know it's a bit of a pain in the ass sometimes putting call sign in, but it does help that other person on the other end of the line to be able to think, oh yeah, that's useful. I've got somebody there now who's calling me, and then you can answer you with a bit of a conversation. And the other thing, I'm writing too big here, aren't I? Sorry.
No, go. Get on.
I'm too fast. When I was a salesman, we used to just turn them over, use the other side. When they first come out, they were dear. I don't think they're much cheaper now, but they were.
Paper's expensive at the moment.
Well, everything's expensive, isn't it? That's the bloody trouble. So we've so we realise there's no expression with Morse, and we've got that information. And now Bill called me, and I'm going to go back to Bill now. So I'm going to put his call sign in first. 2E0WTG from 2E0KJC, and I'm going to say whatever I want to say. Good afternoon, Bill. Nice to see you. Nice to hear you on 80 metres or whatever. And one of the other important things I'm going to say to him is give him a signal report. Your RST is, now that's protocol as well, to put that in. Rather than just like Keith does, 599, and then he's gone. That's important to put that, because the other person who you're putting that to now knows that he's going to get some numbers. Because not everyone's good with numbers. So he's now expecting 3 numbers to come up. So that's a good thing to put that in. Your RST is, and the person can get ready then, and he'll know that what he can probably say is 599. No matter what the signal is, the chances are you're going to go 599. Some even stretch it to 579 on the other occasion, don't they? Everyone seems to put in 599, no matter what, which doesn't help really. Because if you've got a problem with your radio or something, or you're off frequency or your signal's crap, you really want to know about it. Or they might put in, you hear this a lot from East Europeans, 599X. which means perfect signal. Or you might set 599C, which means it's chirpy. And you might see a K, which means you've got a key click. Don't hear it very often, but now and again you will. And these people expect you to go back to them and say, you're also 599 with an X. You know what I mean? So it's horses for
It's
courses.
just being polite, really, isn't it?
It is
That's
being
what
polite.
people
I
are
mean,
doing.
this bit here, I defy anybody in this room has ever heard that.
I don't think I have, no.
Do you hear 5 and N?
5 and then that's just 599. That's just
Yeah.
a cheeky way of saying you're 9. But this is hardly used these days. I put it on those sheets there in the middle, and I put it on the bottom so you can see that. In case anybody does put an X, or God forbid put a K, which means there's something wrong with your radio or something wrong with your key. So it is. It's a strange thing, but yeah, but that is definitely protocol. Rather than just go 599, your RST is. So give the person the chance on the other end of the radio to get ready for those numbers coming. When I've told this tale before, sometime last year I was in the shack and the wife came up. Now she rarely ever comes in the shack. I've got a spare chair. She comes up, she sits down behind me like this. And I'm contacting, I'm looking, I'm scanning, and I'm looking over my shoulder because she's looking round. I thought, oh, she's going to start noting things, you know. She actually looks at the price of things on the internet and stuff like that, you know. Anyway, just sat there, yeah, love, yeah, fine, got a brew here for you, oh, thank you, love, you know. And then I could hear the signal, and I went past it. She said, why didn't you answer him? You know, I said, it's going a bit slow for me. She says, what do you mean? I said, it's a bit slow, I've had to go a bit quicker. She says, he might be disabled. He might be injured. You know. I said, yeah, but he might be a brat. She said, answer him. And the bloke come back and he said, sorry, I'm using the other hand because I've damaged the right hand. I felt like that. You know, and just when she'd come in the bloody door, you know what I mean? So now I answer anybody. Or if somebody answers, if I put a CQ call out, and I'll put CQ call out of maybe 26, 28 words per minute. Sometimes quicker, sometimes slower. But if someone comes back at 12 words per minute, I think, oh, shit, but I'll still answer it. But the trouble is, when you get to reach a stage, as Jay would say, when you get to a stage when you're doing 20, 25 words per minute, it's very hard to slow down. Because it's not just you keep your dots and your dars are slowing down. Every space has got to be bigger. The space between your letters has got to be bigger. Your space between your words has got to be, everything's got to be, you've got to adjust everything to see. It's really weird. And you don't notice it until you're going fast. And as you get better and better, you naturally speed up. You know, as you'll naturally become good at Morse because you start hearing words and not letters. I hear words now, I don't hear letters. I used to be a letter A, E, A, we'll miss that one, we'll crack it, miss that. And it's hard, but now I just hear words. It's weird to explain that to people. And I think my background in music helped me a lot, but if I'm listening to a Morse now, I can just go, yeah, oh, yeah, he's all right, you know. And I don't have to worry about it, it just goes in one ear and it comes out, just translates into words most of the time. If the person on the other end of the key is keying properly, you know, it'll come out as words. But if he isn't, if his timing's in wrong, then it can come out as anything. But just call him. We were calling before. We wrote down CQ, 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 CQ. Now, okay. Okay, each CQ, that's all it is. Now, if you get the timing wrong on that, we could go through the whole alphabet just using those dots and dashes in that order. There isn't hardly a single letter in the alphabet you couldn't duplicate by getting the timing wrong. So you could make that CQ into 30 or 40 different phrases by the time it reached the other end, just by upsetting your timing. That's Morse for you, that's just the way it is. You just got to be so much on the ball. But it comes easy. You know, we soon learn to do CQ, we soon learn to do your RST 599, have a good day, 73s, sign the key, go on to the next call, and before you know it, you've made a contact. And that's all you've got to do. If you want to contact someone who's calling CQ, if you can recognise their call sign, put your call sign in as well, he'll call you back. Whether you understand him or not, it's not a big deal. You can just say, oh, your RST is 599, thank you, bye-bye. There's your contact. You know, it's done. And after, when you've done it a few hundred times, I mean, it seems daunting, but once you've done it a few hundred times, it's easy. It really clicks. Now, if I can learn it, I'm 60 something. I think anyone can. But it does take, all it takes is practice. I was hoping tonight we'd have a radio set up and you could have a go with the kid. I've got a quick way of having a go with it, and I'll set it up in a minute on there, just to show you.
What about if somebody can't spell?
Well, it's...
I know it's an obtuse question, but it just...
But if you write everything down that you're going to say,
yeah,
you shouldn't have a problem.
yeah.
I would never tell anyone to write dots and dashes down. That's the way, I mean, Keith used to say, oh, I write down all the dots and dashes. You're never going to get anywhere because you'll become so reliant on what you see, what your eyes are telling you rather than what your brain's telling you to do. So if you can just write down, if you hear somebody on the, let's say you hear me on the net, whatever band I'm on, and I call out for someone to join in by saying QRZ and a question mark, you can put my call sign in your own, then have it written down in front of you. Just write it down in normal writing what you want to say, and then it'll hopefully, you know, I'll be able to understand it, or whoever you're talking to will be able to understand it. But I know what you're saying about can't spell. I occasionally, when I turn my radio on, I use my phone as a decoder. Even though I don't need to, I'll put it on. And the main reason is, as I explained to someone last week, you're listening to Germany or France, and there's a couple of Germans talking to each other. They ain't talking English.
No.
They're talking German, or they're talking French or Spanish. And it saves me wasting a few minutes decoding it, thinking, hold on, has he made a mistake there? And you know, they're talking German. You know, and you'll find that a lot if you're on 80 metres, and just like we're having a chat now, if they're in their own country, they ain't going to be talking English in Morse. Morse is a universal language, so everyone, they use their own lingo. And you can waste a lot of time trying to work out what they're saying, and then realise they're talking their own language. It's interesting, but yeah, as David would say.
Does that decoder do it in English though, or would
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, sorry mate, it's only English.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, as it is on your radio.
Yeah, yeah.
You'll see it come up,
Yeah.
and you'll think, and after a while you'll think,
gobbledygook, yeah.
that's German. Well,
Yeah.
you'll recognise it as
Yeah.
technical German or standard German or French. You just
Right,
move away from that one and find somebody else.
yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, that's the protocol side of it. We can touch on it again, you know, as it well. But I found it's double important to be as polite as possible and put in all these things, like putting both call signs in, like putting your RST is, and then saying it, leaving a big enough gap, and then going through the numbers, just in case the person on the other end of the key isn't as good at numbers as you are. Some people are good at numbers and crap at letters, and some people are good at letters and crap at numbers, and then you get onto all the apostrophes and question marks. I put a question mark on the circle there because I found that one of the most interesting things to learn, apart from the numbers and letters, was a question mark. Now, did I make some of the notes here?
At the end of that, I was getting mixed up when I'm listening to the K's, KEs and K. Because you put something after 599, don't you?
Oh yeah, only if you want to. I mean, this is rare these days.
They're not those letters. When
you're talking to somebody. All right, yeah.
When you only want that call sign to call you back.
It's a KN. If you're in a conversation with somebody,
Right.
if you join into a net and it's me running the net and you calling in, I will come to you or you will come to me. At the end of your conversation, you'll put KN because we've already made a contact.
People don't use QSL, do they? At the end of Morse, when I listen, I never hear anyone say QSL. They go K,
No, they
R,
don't. They don't.
K.
Yeah, they'll just.
I never understand.
There's lots of different. Sometimes they put a couple of V's, a couple of R's, which means Roger, or they'll spell out confirm or understood. I used to put understood because it used to annoy people because it was a 10-letter word. But yeah, but Kate, if you just on your first call out, if you were calling out, if I was calling out on the first time, so I could sit down the radio, call CQ out, call sign in twice, P's K, which means giving the invitation to everybody to key into it. Once I've made a contact with you, and I'm going on to the next over, I'll I'll then put KN, which means it's just for you then.
Right.
Right. So I finish an over, and I'll go, yeah, back to you. 2E0, what's your call, Sam?
M0MBQ.
M0MBQ from 2E0KJC KN,
Yeah.
which means end of conversation. It's up to you now to key now. But yeah, once you're in that conversation, it's KN. But on your first call out, until you get somebody, it's please key, which is just a K. Yeah, good point.
You don't find, I'm not criticising your notes, but I've not been able to find out what the, right, KN.
KN is just that, yeah,
If
you're
you
already in the
Google KN.
conversation. It's specifically for one person, KN.
If
The
you
person
Google-
you're talking to.
If
Yeah.
you Google KN, you get car.
You'll get somewhere. Yeah, so that's I mean, the good thing about when you call out CQ for your first time, it's panicky on Morse. It's great on SSB because you don't have to worry, you know, they're going to come back to you in English and they're going to say, how you doing, my call signs, what's the name, you know. They might say different words, they might say Japan instead of Juliet and things like this, but you know exactly where they're coming from straight away. But Morse is different kettle of fish altogether. And, you know, when you call out CQ, one of four things is going to happen. You call out CQ at 20 words per minute. One of four things is going to happen. The first thing, they're going to come back to you at 20 words per minute. If you're calling at 20, and the person, an experienced operator, will come back to you at the same speed you're calling most of the time. Or you might get someone like I did with the wife, you might get somebody who come back at half the speed. And then your brain's used to 20 words per minute, all of a sudden you've got 10 words per minute. So you're back to letters again. Because you can't pick words out of Morse at 10 words per minute. You've got to be doing 15, 18, 20 before you can start to pick words out. So they may come back slower. Then again, they might come back a lot quicker. A lot of the French do this. You call at 20, they'll come back to you at 30. Quite a lot of them just to take the mickey out and see how good you are. You know, it's a bit of a game, Morse. They do this, you know what I mean? And the other thing, of course, is nobody will come back, which is pain in the butt. But on 80 metres, if you've got 80 metres on your radio of an evening, you call CQ, every time you'll get someone come back to you know, without a doubt. And you can always put in learner, you know, or if you've got a QRZ page, put it on your QRZ page that you're learning Morse. Please be patient and learn in this craft. And then by the time they've got back to you, they've already looked at your QRZ page. These guys they're there, you know, they've got it on the computer straight away, they've looked you up, they know your name. Okay, Chris, no problem, yeah, we can see you're a learner, good luck. And you think, geez, how do they know that? They've already been on your QRZ page and looked you up within that few seconds it's took. So look forward to that. Your first CQ call is scariest. And you know, it's just like doing your practical on the radio, doing it in the club when you did your foundation and you picked up the mic and you're trying to press the button and you're like, you're like arc right, aren't you? You know, and it's only near the other room, innit? It's only peanut in the other room. But it's that gets you going, and Morse is a bit like that. But it's not as forgiving as SSB, but the good thing is, no one hears your voice. So, you know, everyone sounds the same on Morse. We're all dots and dars and beeps and this, that and the other, so it doesn't matter if you mess it up. You know, I mean, Alan, who you all know, had a go at joining in with me sometime last year, and he got one number out. And then he said, that's it, I can't do anymore. I've gone, I've lost it. You know, he just lost it, and yet he did a test, didn't he, to do his Morse, his full exam. He had to do a test, didn't he, a Morse test.
Yeah.
But because he hasn't done it, he thought, I'll just step back into that. Of course he couldn't. You know, it does take a bit of, takes commitment. You know, there's no skill to it. All it is your time, commitment. But it took me a lot of time to get to the stage I'm at now. Well, eventually, we'll probably try and get a radio set up in here. Where we can just have a bit of coaxial. I've got loads of tripods that I had for speaker days when I was in the band. Put an antenna up out there, whip 80 metres, and just show people how it, maybe on your little F3DX10, which is a bit easier than bringing mine in.
Yeah, that'd be fine. Yeah.
And then it's got a waterfall, which is great. Can always bring the screen in and just show what Morse is like on 80 metres. How to recognise the signals and how busy it is. Not on a Quops night, of course. It's not, fortunately, Thursday's not a Quops night, is it? Wednesday's chaos, isn't it? When Quops are operating. But Thursday, and we'll do some call outs, and you'll see, no matter who you call, within 30 seconds, somebody will come back to you. It might be somebody in Leeds, or somebody in Scotland, or St Hebrides, or it could be, you know, you can get as far as Eastern Europe quite easily on 80 metres at night time. You get Iceland, you can get down to southern Spain, and I'm not had Africa on 80 metres, but I know people who have. So there's a lot to go on that side of things.
What about the power output? So how many watts are you using to get out and get those distances?
I only use 50. I only use 50 at home. I've got.
You're saying that because your licence only allows that?
Of course I can. Would I break the rules? But as an M7, I got into the other side of the States. I got into California on 10 watts.
Right.
You know, which was one of my first contacts as well, which scared the living daylights out of me. And the guy says, "Oh, you're 5 and 9 clear as well."
Yeah.
But it's conditions in it.
Yeah.
As we know,
There's
just
always
recently
time.
they've been crap, haven't they?
Yeah.
They're coming alive again now. 20 metres is lining up a bit at night. Once that 20 metres starts to open up when the grey line's passed, it's a good sign. Now, things are picking up a little bit on that side of things. So hopefully, you know, we'll have some sort of setup. Like I say, I hope I had a radio tonight so people can have a go. I've got my little Keith Robinson set up here, which I set up today. I've talked before about the app Morse. Has anyone got Morse? Okay, it's a £1 app. I think it's just for Apple. I'm not 100% sure.
Yes, it is Apple.
Is it just Apple?
Just
Yeah.
Apple.
Right. It's
99
it's developed by Icon. So, and it's the basic app's about £1, and then if you want the full thing with all the training things, it's about £5. It's money well spent. It absolutely works a treat, and I've set this up to work on my keyboard here with a bit of luck.
The alternative one for Android is Morse Expert.
Morse
Yeah.
expert.
I think they're very similar. I think they work quite similar in a way. Does that tell you know if somebody's keying? Does it come up with the actual speed it's doing at the top?
You just set the speed as you would on your radio. So you go into the settings on this and just set your speed.
Right.
You know what you do on your radio?
I think Morse Expert, if you go on it, it'll automatically come up and tell you
The speed.
Yeah.
The speed.
Oh, right.
I don't know if that's any
Yeah,
different.
you've got it on here. So
Yeah, 'cause I've never seen the Morse one. So.
this just gives a bit more sound.
Yeah, I found
A bit slower then. There's a bit of latency. On your radio, there's no delay. But here, there's probably about a few hundredths of a second.
Yeah,
Which
can
is
see it.
annoying. So I don't know if you can see it. I'm just going to try and. You'd have to have good eyes to see that.
That's decoding.
Yeah, so that's decoding it actually. It only works on this basis of, because I've got, this is a little controller off a pinball machine. So, I know, I thought this is good. It's got a very amicable chip in it which allows it to interface with the iPhone, which is great.
Have I done that?
That's not me, that's yours.
Have I affected you on that?